Usually the stated problem, the pain that they're stating is the problem, is usually not the problem. They have a problem that they think they need to solve. Hey, I need a checklist for this one thing, or I need a scorecard put together for something, right? So they want this little piece of the system that they think is the problem, and if they fix that, it's going to make everything work better. And usually, in my experience, those are just tools, and usually the tools are not the problem, right? You need to define the system, map it out, get everything documented, try to simplify it, test it, tweak it. Now you're ready for automation. And you can't automate all of it. You got to automate the predictable, consistent stuff, right? Because we're in the customer service business, so AI can't handle the customer from start to finish.
Welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. My name is Chris Keefer, and today I am joined by Tim Perryman. Tim spent 35 plus years building Perryman Painting and Remodeling in the Sacramento area into one of the most respected names in the trade. He has since taken everything he learned about the field side and turned it into Field Ops Academy, where he coaches other painting owners on the systems that finally let them step out of the day-to-day. So, Tim, I'm super excited for this conversation, and I think we'll summarize the topic of what we're going to be talking about as something I think you would agree with, and that is most field problems aren't really field problems, they're design problems. The thing that I've heard that I go back to every time is every system is perfectly designed to produce the output that it produces. So anyways, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Tim, thanks for coming on, and I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So yeah, tell me, let's, for those of you that don't know, you ran this Perryman Painting for 35 years. I think, just give us the rundown of what was the trajectory of that business? Were there ahas? How long did it take you to have those ahas? And where are you at now?
Yeah, over 35 years. I mean, we could spend the whole time talking about all the things that I've learned and mistakes I've made, the cycle of the business and all that. But top level, where we finished was we were doing about $5 million a year in revenue, home services, painting, inside, outside cabinets, kitchen remodels, bath remodels. We custom designed and built cabinets. We had a shop where we fabricated cabinets, and we had all of our cabinet painting there. So that's where we ended. We had a team of about 40 people. W-2, it was a combination of W-2 and submodel. The painting side was all W-2. It was in California. High regulation state, so much different than, I live in Texas now, so I wish I would have moved my company here 20 years ago. Just so much easier. But so we were a W-2. We had a lot of employees. All of our painters were employees. And then on the remodel side, we had 3 lead guys, and then we used subcontractors for the remodeling side of it. So we had 3 sales reps, 3 to 4 project managers at a time. We had a bookkeeper, full shop. So we had inventory management and all that stuff. So, it was a very good sized business. From the beginning, I started off as a painter like most painting contractors did. I had some experience in restaurant management, so I was good at managing people and building teams. Started in 90.
You were at a restaurant before?
Fast food. So I worked fast food from age 14 to 18. And then I started painting. Started my own business at 23. I've always had a drive to work and do things. So had the hustle factor. So I started painting, grew the company from 91 to 2004. I think we were at 5 million in revenue back in 2004. But we were doing a lot of different types of painting. We were doing industrial, commercial, tract homes. We were doing all kinds of different stuff. We decided we hated that, chasing money. Got back down to just doing repaints. That was our focus. And then I got my general contractor's license, started to scale the business again from 2014 to the end of last year. So we kind of did this throughout our years, which most people do. They cycle in and out. Looking back, I wish I would have torn it down and rebuilt it a couple times instead of just doing it one. A lot of times we stick where we're not happy with the way things are going, and we're afraid of change. And sometimes it requires a complete rebuild to reset and build over again, as opposed to trying to remodel the business within, you know what I mean? So I wish I would have done that 5 or 6 times over my career instead of just once, or twice. So,
Mm.
uh, so that's kind of where I was at. And the first 25 years, I'd say the first 20 years, I was learning like everybody else. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I needed to know. I just knew that my business wasn't working the way I wanted it to work. It required me all the time. I always knew I was going to have to go in and solve all the big problems, even though I had very good systems and processes in place, which I thought were good systems and processes in place. It was enough for the company to function without me to a degree, but really the last 10 years of my career is when I really started to figure out how to really make it work, how to look at my business in a series of systems, processes, my people, where they're plugged in, how to map workflows, all those things. Once I started dialing that in, it started to make, it wasn't as chaotic as I thought it was, right? So
I'm curious, because you're part of the Nolan world. When did you come across Nolan in that 35-year journey?
and that's really where my education increased. Is the first 20-25 years I was trying to figure it all out. I thought I had this unique business that I was going to do it different than everybody else, my way. I had coaches and consultants, but really just never listened to anybody. And then we were having a rough patch. I hired my first real consultant, guy that introduced me to the book Traction, systems thinking, and from there I actually had a series of coaches over a 10-year period. And Nolan was my final coaching outfit that I actually stuck with. So I had a sales and marketing sales specialist, sales system specialist that coached me for probably 2 years. Dug into marketing for a couple of years. Dug into finance, forecasting, and business modeling and all that stuff. So I found specialists. I figured out what I needed to learn. I tried to find someone that was a specialist in it, had them coach me, learned what I could from them, and then I moved on to the next big thing. And then Nolan's a really good general business coach, and he really taught me how to be a better coach to my people. That was one of my big things when I hired him. I'm like, hey, I need someone who's going to teach me how to be a better coach to my team. You know what I mean? Because at that point, I was pretty much leading and managing my managers. They were leading and managing the team below them. So it's interesting journey, throughout the whole process. And just you never stop learning. You never have it all figured out. You just get a little bit more clarity every year. My main goal is to try and teach the younger generation that's coming up, so they don't waste all their youthful energy on
Same thing you
not
did.
figuring it out. I'd like to be able to help them shorten that time frame. What took me 35 years to learn, if I could help them figure it out in 25 or 20 or 15 or 5.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious, like, if you were to summarize, I think you said there's lots of coaches in sales, marketing, finance, just general business, but there's a gap, especially for painting, on this operation side. That's what you're looking to solve with Field Ops Academy. What would, like, if you were to describe like the core thesis that if solved, everything else is easier, what is the core thing that you plan on delivering as a value through this vehicle?
yeah, I mean, so what I'm going to focus on is field operations. So from sales handoff to production to job completion, the workflow, the processes, the systems within that whole span, because I believe that's where, in home services, that's where almost all the humans are. Whether you're a sub model or employee model, it doesn't matter. You're still producing the same widget. That's where all the pain is for the owners, because that's where your people, your employee problems are at. That's where all your customer problems are at. And if you can fix that and make that work really well, it frees the owner up from the chaos side of it, but also can improve your output, your customer service, the quality of your product. You get a much more predictable, consistent end product, happier customers, and that helps everything else in the business when that starts working. It frees the owner up to spend more time on other areas of business and what have you. So that's really what the focus is going to be. So all the systems and processes that from sales handoff to job completion, map it out, find out where
And
the
so when you're talking to someone and they're like, yeah, I got a bunch of operations problems in the field, where like, I'm assuming just from, I'm in the software tech world, I'm always like, okay, there's probably three core things. Like their data's all messed up. They never had a plan. There's no architecture, whatever. Like that's how I think about stuff. What are the things like when someone comes to you and says, "Hey Tim, help. I got field problems." Do you have like I bet you that it revolves around these core things. What are those?
Ah, usually the stated problem, the pain that they're stating is the problem, is usually not the problem, right? So they'll come in and say, "Hey, I can't find good help. I can't get my project managers to manage my jobs well. I can't get my job leaders to perform on a consistent basis, right? They have a problem that they think they need to solve. Hey, I need a checklist for this one thing, or I need a scorecard put together for something, right? So they want this little piece of the system that they think is the problem. And if they fix that, it's going to make everything work better. And usually, in my experience, those are just tools, and usually the tools are not the problem. You fix this, then the pressure shows up someplace else, right? Um, Field operations wants more information from the sales guy. They want them to make sure all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed in the scope of work. Sales guys aren't built for that. That problem keeps coming up. They go, okay, I'm going to really start to, hammer on my sales team, make sure that they're giving us more detail. Then all of a sudden, sales performance drops off because the pressure, you just move the pressure from here to there, right? But typically, like you said, I mean, you're in the automation business, right? So, I'm sure you map workflows, right? How are we currently doing business? And automation really is at the end of the process, right? You need to define the system, map it out, get everything documented, who does what, try to simplify it, right? You're really clear on what good looks like. What are we trying to accomplish? Like you said, outcomes, right? So what do we want this system to produce, right? What is the desired outcome? So what's the map? What's the flow? What's documented? What's not documented? Get everything in there, simplify it, test it, right? Tweak it. Now you're ready for automation, right? And you can't automate all of it. You got to automate the predictable, consistent stuff, right? Because we're in the customer service business, so AI can't handle the customer from start to finish, at least not yet, right?
I
But
love that you brought that up.
automation
I
has
don't know
an
if
end,
you.
so people think, hey, I need automation. It's like, well, not yet, right? And I'm sure you
Yeah.
run into that all the time when you're trying to help people map their stuff out. They don't really see it as steps. Every company, every business has these systems in their business, whether they're aware of them or not, whether they're documented or not, right? No matter the size of the company, there is a marketing system, there's a sales system, there's a production system, there's an accounting system, right? There's a hiring system. They may not see it, they might not have it documented, but it's there. It's usually up in the owner's head. The stage one owner works by himself. It all sits up here, right? As you start to add people, job leaders, now all of a sudden I have to make sure that I get it out of here and into a system or a document or a process that I have my job leaders start to perform for me.
So I'm going to interrupt because you're spot on about the automation at the last step. And another guy that's in the great state of Texas, Elon, have you heard his 5 design steps?
Probably some form of it,
Yeah. So he says,
He's an
number one,
engineer,
make
so
the
it's big business too. So I try to take that stuff and I try to turn it into home service company language that they can understand. You know what I mean?
yeah. That's what I like about these steps is because they're like stupid simple. It's make the requirements less dumb. delete the part or process steps. Like delete as much as you can. Simplify, then accelerate, see if you can move faster, and only after all those 4 steps then you look at what can we automate. And that, I feel like the first 2 of just like, okay, let's pause, let's go back to first principles. What do we actually need to accomplish? We have to paint the house. Okay, cool. what has to happen? We need to know what the color the customer, like you go through those things, and then it's like, okay, we have a whole bunch of stuff that we're doing right now. How much of this can we just get rid of because some random person said we needed it and they don't even work here anymore? And you know what I mean? Like go back and delete and delete, 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 simplify. Then it's like, all right, is this fast and efficient? Okay, now let's plug automation in. Because once you start automating, it gets really hard to change. I mean, you can always change the processes, but it's really easy to just change a process that's run by humans because you just tell the human, hey, do this now. When you wire this whole thing together, it gets harder and harder if you got all these things and triggers and things that are firing and doing stuff, and then you're reworking. So, anyways, you're spot on with that, and I really, really hope people hear that because a lot of times when people are looking for software, I this is my theory. Tell me if you agree with this. I tell everybody, like, first of all, software does not scale your painting company. And there's, in fact, no technology that's going to scale your painting company. People and processes scale your painting company. Software just removes friction. So if you get the people and processes right, then you find the software that's going to support those people and those processes to execute consistently at a high level. Now, I like to use the analogy of if you've ever done like a Peloton workout on a bike, you can build a business on resistance at 99, and it's possible. You're going to be freaking exhausted and you probably will get burned out. But when you have the people and processes and then you add the tech piece, all it's doing, the technology is just cranking that resistance down to like 12. And then you're like, oh, this is easy. I'm going the same distance that I was before, and I'm like doing a tenth of the effort because the system or the software is supporting the system. But that's where I'm actually curious. Uh, is there, you said a couple things that are like, is there a just like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel? It sounds like you have the system that painting companies should operate their field ops with, or do you think that there is flavors of this that need to get customized per business?
Yeah, and that's a great point, right? A lot of people think there's a plug and play, you know, job delivery. This is called a job delivery system, right? From sales handoff to job completion. Um, there's really not a plug and play system, I don't think, in a home service. Even though we all produce the same stuff, right? Every business owner, um, education, where he's at in his business, what they know, what they don't know, what they excel at. They may be really good at the sales process, but production, or they're really good at production, but they're not good at sales. And then the people that they have within their company and the roles that they have. Because what I don't want to do is have to come in and say, hey, you got to redesign your whole company in order to be able to run my process, right? So typically, what I do is I start off with the diagnostics. I want to learn about the owner of the company, where they're at developmentally, where they think their biggest pains are at in their company. So I want to find out if there's someone that I can coach, and are they ready for this type of work yet, right? What do they know about systems and process buildings? Have they ever done it before? How did they fail? And really find out if they're ready for this, and then where they think they're, and then we pick one piece that we fix. Go ahead, and it's usually going to be in the field on the job delivery. But if they have that really developed, we may go upstream and find it in production in the handoff someplace else, right? Um, you know, in the end, it could go all the way up to the sales team, because really you want all your systems within the company to be working together. Everything has synergy, right? If sales makes promises that production can't deliver, then you're going to have problems. So, where were we? Where did we start off there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my question is you're saying that you are going to tweak this for every single business, and what I'm
Yeah.
thinking is like, well, there's I've gone back and forth on this over time, and do you know Aleph Holdings? Have you heard of them?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. Jason Paris.
Paris Painting, yeah. Um, so I've talked to Jason quite a bit and had like consulted, or he's consulted for us on just like design of our processes and stuff. And they have their in-house tool Wallogy that's like their all-in-one system. And people ask him all the time, "Hey, can I just get the software?" And at least for now, maybe this changes in the world of AI, but he said it wouldn't work for anybody else because you literally have to adopt your entire business operations and the roles and the people you hire and what they're expected to do to the business model that we have. Otherwise, the system is so dialed into them that it doesn't work. So when they go and buy into a painting business, the painting business is basically, for lack of a better word, getting gutted from a systems standpoint and adopting a new way of everything.
It's basically a tear down and rebuild. And the larger the organization, the heavier that lift is. And it's a huge lift to be able to do that, right?
Totally. But I'm wondering for you, like, is that a? Go ahead.
If you talk to 10 painting company owners, and everyone's got a project manager, right? And you ask them what that project manager does, you're going to get 10 different answers, right? They could be inside operations. They manage the schedule. They get all the stuff before the job starts. They could be in the field all the time, field operations, managing the customer, or they could be a field supervisor that manages job leaders, but they all do different things, right? So I can't come into someone's company and go, hey, listen, you got to retool your project management team before you can implement the system, right? That's a heavy lift, right? So I want to know how their team currently functions, who does what, where things are broken, and pick one area that we can fix and put together, build a process or a system, a piece of the system. That's another thing. People get confused on what a system is and what's a process, right? You hear all the time, hey, you got to put systems together. You got to build processes, right? They're two different things. So a system is, every company's got a marketing system, right? Where they have multiple systems within that, right? I mean, if you're running a $5 million painting company, lead flow is gold, right? You got to have leads coming in, right? So you have a system for communicating with your existing customers. You have a system for social media marketing. You have a system for SEO, for SEM. Right? You have all these little mini systems within the marketing system, right? And then each one of those mini systems have a series of processes, tasks that must get done in order to get a predictable outcome. So you can plug somebody into it and they go and do the work for you, right? Sales has it, production has it, accounting has it. You have a hiring system. So there's all these systems within the company, and there's a series of processes within each system, right? So systems thinking is something that people don't really grasp, because we all start off as painters, right? We're tradesmen, right? We know how to get work, we know how to hustle, we hire people to do stuff. We're building this thing, but it's never really been designed that way. And as the company grows and scales, you got to keep retooling it until you fill all the roles and it's all up and running, right? So systems thinking and system processes. And the thing is, if you ever read Tom Foster's book, Hiring Talent? It's a really good book. So I was trying to build a hiring process, right? I was trying to improve my people that I have. So I read that book, and he introduced me to the thinking of levels of work, right? It basically is when there's people that have current capacity, people that have future capacity to be able to do work, right? But like 20% of the population unemployable. They got issues. They just can't come and work for you, right? 40% of them will only be level 1 workers, meaning they can handle minimal tasks. They can think, through the end of the day to day, but they need someone to manage them every day to keep them busy. And those people will never be able to move beyond level 1 work throughout their whole lifetime. They don't have the mental capacity or whatever capacity or desire to do higher level work, management work, right? Then level 2 people are your managers, your project managers, your job leaders. They can kind of look a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks out, be able to schedule stuff like that, manage a process, but they'll never get to level 3. Level 3 is being able to build processes and fix them, right? And
is that a different skill set of like they're just people that are wired to be able to do that better than others?
Right. But it's a small percentage of the population that will ever have the capacity to be able to do that type of work. So this is what frustrates me when I talk to coaches and consultants. They're like, hey, just build the process, build the system. And, Me 15 years ago, I didn't even understand what that was. I mean, I had a manual with step-by-step process for everything, but I didn't really understand it, let alone be able to let alone be able to build it right. That's actually usable, that we can actually put in the company and build it. So there's this gap of people that can really build good systems and processes. Most of them
And
are
you
in.
think that in general, that's like a not like you might be able to train a little bit, but it's basically like a type of person that just thinks this way, gets it, loves it. You can't just say like, "Hey, Susan, you manage our processes. Why don't you build?" That's unlikely to work.
Yeah, I've had people tell me I'm going to hire a project creator. I'm going to have them build the processes. I'm like, you're going to lose that person. There's no freaking way. They start a new job. They're not going to be able to document everything. That's basically what you want to do. I want you to document all the steps. People just don't. First of all, it's a skill, right? You have to see the skill. You got to learn how to do the skill. Then you have to get the reps in, right?
Mm.
And that's the thing. You don't get enough reps in. People don't like to sit down and do it. I mean, if you look at what I built, when I was 5 years into business, the systems and the checklist that I had, and you look at what I had at the end of my career, the quality of the work, the clarity, the workflow, your role descriptions, all that stuff. I didn't have any of that when I first started. It took me years and years of learning and rebuilding to be able to get the reps in, to see what was working, what wasn't working, and to get clarity on how it all worked. I mean, it's a skill in its own, and people just, even if they have the future capacity to be able to do that work, they don't have the knowledge, the education, and the reps in to do it really well right now.
So couldn't, or is it
Does that make
possible
sense?
to take, it does. Could you take that system that you invested all this time in, and if someone was just like, "Hey, I'm starting a company, Tim, just tell me how to run my business." Is that the idea of what you would do? Because I understand there's the other route of you're saying like, let me come in and audit and observe and I'll start tweaking the system that's in place. But is it possible to just be like, if someone said, I will literally operate however you tell me to operate, is that like, again, I don't know if you want to say your system was perfect. Maybe you'd say that. It's like anything can be tweaked and improved.
There's no
But
such
like
thing
if
as
it's,
there's no such thing as perfection, right? So
yeah, but if it's like a really
short
solid
answer is
system,
yes. If you want to operate it the way I operated my business, you can plug and play. I have all the systems. I have the role descriptions for inside operations, outside operations, supervisor, people development, all the things that have to happen in the field, from dispatching from the office to day one of job start checklist to end of each day checklist to final inspections. All those things sit in there. But you got to train the people on how to do it too. And usually that's where the biggest gap is. So if someone just started a company and goes, "Hey, I want to plug and play this thing," it probably will not work for that person. The person that's going to help is the person that's already running a $2 to $5 million a year business. They already have systems and processes in place. They have a sales team. They have a marketing team. They have a project management team. But they still haven't been able to get out of being the bottleneck in the company. Everything's still, too many things are coming through the owner, right? And so, because decisions aren't getting made, so they already have a good business. Maybe they're profitable. Everything's working good. They're like, "Hey, it's all working good, but I still feel like I'm stuck. I can't get out of being the bottleneck in the company," right? That person is the person that's ready for this system.
okay, so I have a friend, his name's Jesse, runs a $2 million painting company. So I'm just thinking like this would be very relatable probably. Um, he currently, this is my understanding of his day to day. He runs sales appointments still. And he is, yeah, I think he just hired a PM. And I should say, I think his goal for this year is like 1.8, but he was at he hit, just barely hit 2 million a couple of years ago, but then he kind of slid back. But he's running all the sales appointments. He works like crazy. And then he just hired a PM trying to get that off of his plate. But he's just like, he's stuck. So like when you talk to someone like that, imagine he's, he's here listening. What is his next, what should he do? Like literally not even like systems, but is it like call me, do this, or is it audit this system, or do like a time audit, or like watch this video? Like, what is the actionable step for someone that's like what you just described, Tim, or this Jesse guy that we're talking about? That's me. So what do I do? How do I get out of this place I don't want to be in?
So that's I was smiling because that's just it's the path of business growth and scaling, right? You get to a point, it's like, okay, I got to hire a project manager, and then I got to hire a sales guy, and then I got to figure out. The thing is that they want to hire this project manager. That's why I say it doesn't work for. Let's say you came in, I'm starting a business, I want to run your system. They haven't felt the failures of having a project manager and a sales rep and things breaking yet. Without going through that, you don't realize how important systems and processes are, right?
It's like a lack of appreciation for the thing that's gonna
Probably
that
not a lack of
appreciation
appreciation,
is
but
gonna make you want
if
it.
you talk to Jesse, he's like, hey, I don't need to document everything. I'm just gonna have him come in and just have him just go out there and just start checking jobs. Right? I need some help out in the field, so I'm just gonna promote one of my best lead painters. I'm gonna turn him into a project manager, and now he's gonna go start checking jobs in the field instead of me. Right? And they think that's gonna save them time. Now I got a guy that's doing what I was doing out in the field, but they didn't give him a system to run. Just go check jobs. What do they do when they go check a job? Why are you going in the field to check the job? What are you doing? What is the job leader doing? Right? So that's why I say there's all the work is the same, but everyone has different people running different roles and different parts of it. That it's different in every painting company. You're almost never going to look at two painting companies and their project manager does the same thing. They do different things, right? So I want to know what their current structure looks like. Who does what? Are they covering all the bases that I think need to be taken care of for the job delivery system? And then what's broken? Where is the pressure showing up? And let's fix that. Let's put together a series of processes within that system that they can now implement and go train it. But that's the thing is we can build it. We identify it. We do a diagnostics, and it's not that hard. Diagnostics, it's fairly easy. It's 2 or 3 quick meetings. We decide on what we want to work on. We build a system or process in there. They implement it. And that's typically where most people fail, right? We can design this stuff. Okay, go do it. Then you check in 2 weeks. How's it going? Oh, I haven't had time to start that yet, right? Or they start it and they don't put in the effort, right? I just wrote a brief article on how to get shit done, basically, right? There's different stages, right? I'm interested in this thing, meaning I want to learn about it, but I really don't want to, spend a lot of time on it, right? Commitment. Now, hey, I'm going to implement it. I'm going to put some time and energy into it, and get it up and running. Then there's the obsessed person. So they want to get in and they want to make this thing work really well, right? If you're just interested in it, don't waste your time. You need to be fully committed into trying to fix this thing because it takes time. Because if you already have an existing company and you're going to change something that's important, how we run jobs in the field, it affects your whole team. And someone is running a $3 million painting company. They got 25 to 30 people out in the field working. And all the job leaders have to be trained on this new system. So it's not like you can fix this overnight, right? Have the system, you test it with 1 or 2 of your guys that are open to change, get it implemented, then you roll it out to the rest of the company. And that could take some time to do, right? So I have a 90-day program that's built for that, and we just fix one thing. And I'm not looking for long-term customers, right? 90 days, we do a sprint, we get this thing implemented for you. Maybe re-engage after that on a new project that you want to work on. But I don't want to stick around. I want to teach you how to see your company as a system, processes, how to identify what's broken, how to build systems and processes, hand it off to you, you implement it, and then you get a little bit better at it. And then you go, I think I'm gonna try doing this on the next thing myself.
So this is maybe a dumb question, but I'm like, I genuinely am like, when you say, so we build a system I think that's how you phrased it. When you identify, here's the analysis, this is the problem. Okay, build a system. What is a system? Like literally, is it a Google Doc? Is it a piece of paper? Where is this living? And how do I know that I have built a system? Is there like some elements or aspects that need to exist for you to say that's a system? And what are those? And then where does this thing live to be referenced so that it actually is like followed and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's the language that I think is a big gap in systems and processes. If you read a book on systems and processes, it's usually going to be written from some big consultant that manages, they get these huge contracts to fix a big company, and the language just doesn't translate over to home services, right? So a system is a series of processes. It's if you were to carve your company up, let's say it's called the workflow from the time a customer first calls to the time the job is done, right? There's a series of systems within there. There's other systems too. Like I said, there's marketing systems, there's accounting systems, there's HR systems and all that stuff. But just if you were to map your business from the time a customer first calls to the time you walk off the job and you click payment, right? There's going to be systems within that. So there's going to be the client onboarding system, so the handoff from sales to production. There's all the work that's got to get done. You got to build a file. You got to set them up in your accounting system. You got to get the documents over to the production team, right? There's that thing. That's one system with a series of processes in there, right? And then once it gets to production, the project manager, whoever does the client onboarding, right? They got to onboard the customer. They got to confirm all the information, get colors, schedule the job, make sure the scope is clear, whatever happens within there, right? So that's before the job starts, right? Then you have, job setup. So from there, a lot of times people hand it off to outside operations. It's getting ready to start the week before. They got a field manager that gets it set up for the job leaders. They make sure that one more set of eyes to make sure that everything's, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, the job packs are printed. Then you dispatch, then you do the job, right? So there's a series of systems, but that's one big system. I call it the job delivery system. Within the job delivery system, there's many systems that I just laid out for you. And within each system, there's a processes or SOPs of all the little tasks that have to get done that you want to make sure that they all get done, because they all get done well. We produce a predictable, consistent product at the end, right? We have a happy customer with the job done on time, on budget, 5-star Google review, get paid. Everyone's happy. Team's happy, customers happy, your job leaders are happy, everybody, the business owner's happy, right? So a well-functioning system, everybody wins, right? So a system that's a job delivery system. Within that, we have many systems, and each system has a series of processes. So that's the difference between a system and a process, right?
And the process is essentially an SOP of a checklist.
Right. It's a checklist, right? And one person, if you were to map out, so the first thing is you just map out the customer flow. What are all the stages the customer goes through within your company? In every company, it's going to look a little different, but all the stuff that gets done is the same. When you're painting houses, all the stuff that you have to do, it's all the same, right? And all the problems that come up in the field, they're not unique. You can document every single repeatable, predictable problem. The one-offers, I think you talked about, right? The outliers, that stuff happens. I'm talking about the predictable stuff. Wrong paint gets ordered. Wrong color gets put on the house. The job leader got in an argument with the customer about what's in the scope of work. Job goes over budget. All those things are predictable, right? And if you can predict the problem, you can design around making sure that those same problems stop happening all the time, right?
Why? So with the way that you talk about this, like, it's exciting to me because I'm like, I feel refreshed hearing the clarity that you're speaking on all this stuff. Why do you think people why is the painting industry continuing to reinvent the wheel on this?
I mean, it's a great question, right? Because a lot of them are like I was, right? We start off as we were the best painter, right? Best painters. Basically, most good functioning companies that don't have really good systems, they have a bunch of heroes working for them. They have people come in and just figure shit out, right? They just solve the problems. You got people in there making decisions for the company, but you don't want to rely on heroes, right? I want to be able to hire good people that can run a good system, right? And so you got to be able to build that. Otherwise, you just got a bunch of heroes working for you, right? You don't teach your sales reps how to estimate costs properly. write a good scope of work. If that work's not done well, how's production going to deliver what's promised when what's promised isn't clear, right? So typically, like I said, when the job starts and there's problems in the field, it's usually stuff that happened upstream from there. Information didn't get captured. I like to have a series of gates within that process, right? Meaning we can't go to the next step until these 4 things are done, for sure. They have to be done in order to be able to hand that file off to the next step, right? If it's not done, we need to get clarity from it, right? And really what you're trying to do is you're trying to remove guessing and assumptions from the process. I don't want my project manager to assume that something was promised to the customer, or that we're not doing something, or that we are doing something. I want them to know, right? I don't want them to guess. I don't want them to assume. I don't want them to, because then they pass that assumption, that guess on to the next person in line. And then it lands into the job start, and then they have to solve all the problems. They show up, customer goes, hey, you're supposed to paint these other 2 rooms in the house. It's like, well, I'm looking at my scope. It's not in there. We're not doing that. And then all of a sudden we have a problem, or, hey, the ceilings were included, right? So you want to remove guessing and assumptions, and those are what the gates are for, right? Think of the file flow. When I first mapped out this, I didn't realize the file would do all of this stuff, be handed over to different people doing different things, right? Super complicated. Like we job would sell. Oh, you're hired. Hey, let me send you over to our accounting department. They would collect the deposit, set them up in our QuickBooks system, hand it back to that person. They would build a file. Then they would hand it off to the project coordinator that did some stuff. They would hand it to the project manager to do some stuff, hand it to the field supervisor to do some stuff. And it was just too many people touching that file, right? So when you're looking at you map everything out and go, hey, how can I do this with as few people as possible, with as few steps as possible, to make sure that the most important things always get done, because they're predictable, right? So that when the job starts, it's really, if you look at it from a big picture, the whole business is set up to support the job leader, the guy that does the job in the field, because that's who's serving the customer. They're the ones that live with the customer for 3, 4, 5 days. They're the ones that are delivering on promises. They're the ones with the biggest relationship, strongest relationship with the customer. That person needs to be supported, because if you have a good job leader and you're not giving them the support that they need, they're going to leave your company. Right? You want them to be able to have all the information, 90% of everything they need, so they can just show up and deliver. Right? You don't want them to have to figure out colors and reorder paint and write up extra work orders and have conflict with the customer about what's included, what's not included. You know what I mean? That makes sense?
Totally. That's 100%. So, is there, again, I'm just keep going back to the way you're talking about this. It sounds like you have again, the ideal system of Perryman painting. That is a mapped out thing that has, 7 steps or 6, whatever. And these processes with these SOPs and whatnot, that exists. And there is like a way that if you were just magic wand dropped into a business, you would default to like, this is what I know and I can operate this. Is that, to what extent do you have that like built or able to say like, yeah, these are the 7 steps of customer journey, or 5 steps or whatever it is, and these are all the processes and the SOPs? Like, does that all exist on your computer and that's known? And if someone was like, hey, Tim, help me.
All can be modified to the business, right?
Right.
So
But it's like, this is the ideal. Okay, we'll tweak this, adjust
here's
this,
the workflow.
whatever. But
here's all the things that must get done. Who's in your company right now that does this work, right? This is what they're going to own. Now you've got I'd like to say the easy part done, but now we have the map, we have the people, right? Now we have to train them, because that's where the output comes from, is people need to be trained on how to run the system. So one of the biggest mistakes I made for most of my career is I would hire a project coordinator. I would show them how to do the work. You got it? I'm out. I'd hire a sales rep. I'd go run appointments with them, show them how to do it. All right, I'll come in and check in with you. So there's a situational leadership, levels of development. You ever read that book, SL2?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
gold. Once I understood the concept of that, I'm like, holy shit, I go from leadership style 1 to leadership style 4 and wonder why my people are failing. Right? You got to first show them how to do it. Then you got to watch them do it until they do it right. Now you know they're fully trained. Right? Now you got to keep supporting them and coaching them up until they get to very competent and developed. Right? So people will, I could give you this system, right? And you say, hey, project coordinator, this is a new system. Just go start running it. It's not going to work, right? Because someone's got to teach and coach that person. Make sure that they no-show, do review, right? It's standard training stuff, right? So, it's I'm not trying to make it sound super complicated, but if you want a really well-run company and you truly want to get out of being the bottleneck in the company, this is the work that's got to happen, right? You have to define roles. Hey, this is what you're due for the company. Here's each piece of the system that you're responsible for. Here's the process on how to do the work. Let me show you how to do it. This is what good looks like. This is how we're going to measure your performance, right? We're going to fully train you until I've seen you do the work well, right? And then we're going to check in to make sure that you're still doing it to the point where you don't need my help that much anymore. I'm just checking in, right? That's the work that doesn't get done. Like we used to build, position visions or job descriptions or whatever you want to call them, but didn't have all the core components of them. There'd be this 5-page document that you read it like, what the hell are they going to do with this, right? Clean it up, make it small. Hey, this is what you do. These are the systems within our company. These are where you work within those systems. Here's how you do the work. Here's the skills that are required. Here's the tools that you use. Here's what good looks like. Here's what bad looks like, right? Right? And this is how long it's going to take you to get trained and onboarded in this role. And that's the thing is people don't spend enough time with their people to train them, and then they wonder why things are broken. It's like, hey, I showed you how to do it. It's like, did you? You just kind of gave me the job back and said, go paint the house and figure it out, right? And then I wonder why you're not following processes because you were never trained on how to do it. You never saw someone do it. And that person didn't make sure that you were doing it right, And you asked why this type of thing isn't being done within our industry. And the first step is people don't see it. They know their company is not running the way they want it to. They can feel it, but they don't see how to look at their business in a different way and get clear on specifically what needs to get done to get it cleaned up, right? They don't understand systems and processes. They don't agree that thing is the root problem. They think they just need a different scheduling program to fix their problem, Hey, I'm getting all these jobs, but I can't seem to get them all scheduled out. And I just need what scheduling software are you using? It's like, well, I can set you up an Airtable, but probably not going to solve your problem. There's a different problem that you have there, right? The way the estimates are being done, where you don't know how much time it's going to take. You don't really have your crews. There's no system for scheduling. Scheduling is arguably one of the most complex things within the home service for the painting industry, anyways.
Totally.
Because I have all these guys, have different types of jobs. They all have different skill sets. My estimating's not dialed in. There's no way you're going to be able to predictably schedule anything. If you say estimated jobs 80 hours and it takes 120 hours, there's no freaking way you're going to be able to schedule 10 crews for the next 3 months. Our system in our business, we were able to onboard customers, give them a start date 2 months out and a finish date, and we met it almost every time. Very, very, unless there's weather delays and stuff like that, but for the most part, every single time we deliver what's promised on there because we got really good at the front end stuff. We dialed in our estimating and our scope writing. And so it's possible, right? But Airtable wasn't the solution, right? We just used G-Sheets. Totally customizable. We wrote it. We designed it. It did everything that we wanted to do. We added all kinds of bells and whistles onto it. We had a great schedule. But I could give it to your friend Chris, or not Chris, what was his name? Jesse. I could give him my scheduling system. He probably wouldn't be able to use it. I could give someone my estimating software that we use. We used Excel and Word documents for estimating. Because I looked at, Jobber and Paint Scout and the other estimating programs are out there, and they didn't check the boxes that what I needed out of it. So I just developed my own. But if you look at my estimating system from 30 years ago compared to what we finished with, but it was practice, reps, refining, measuring, feedback loops, fixing, tweaking until, it was good. Not perfect, but good, and that's all you can hope for.
That's awesome. I got, so many more things I want to pick your brain on, but this has been really good. Any other closing thoughts before I get to my wrap up questions?
I think it's important for all business owners to really step back from their business and really think about what they want out of it, where they think it's broken, what they need to do to fix it, and then how do you do it? And that's people typically just go in and solve problems day to day. They don't step back and actually look at what's working and what's not working. If you want to automate your business, back to Boolean, right? You got to map the workflow. You got to document your systems, because until you do that, you're not going to be able to automate anything. All you're going to do is automate chaos. All you're going to do is amplify problems. You're not going to solve the problem that you think you're solving. And implementing new software, a tech stack, if you're going to put a new tech stack in your company, oh my God, the lift is huge. Especially if you're running a $5 million company, because everyone's got to get trained on how to use it. And there's nothing worse, and I've done that. New software comes in, we implement it, everyone's trained on it. A year later, I go, did it solve the problem I thought I was going to solve? More times than not, it's like, actually, no, it's actually worse now than it was before we did this thing. We spent all this time and money on this thing, and the chaos is still there,
That's actually, I feel like that's the number one thing that is, it's actually reminded me of the thing you said earlier in the conversation of when I'm doing a discovery call with somebody, it's like a red flag to me if they're a small company that hasn't had any failed software implementations before, because it's almost like they don't listen to my advice, because they're like, I don't know, living in la la land or something of just like, no, the reason why you have to do it this way and follow this release timeline and train people here and follow up here is so you don't have that same thing happen on your last one, right? But when people have never had the bad experience, and like you're saying, when you've never hired a PM and then it failed and then you got put back in the fire, it's like now all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that is exactly what happened to me, and I understand why I need to follow your system.
I should have listened to Chris 3 years ago when he told me this was going to happen, right? I've been there. I've lived it. You got to get in the reps. You got to see. You got to run it. You got to see what's broken to see what you need to see. If you don't get the reps in, it's like, hey, we implemented Improvement 360 into our company. We got a new CRM. Don't get me wrong, it was a great solution for it, but 3 years after we implement it, I look back and go, oh, shit, we really should go back and rebuild this thing. We should just go back, tear it down, rebuild it, because now I know what it can do and how it can help our company. But it requires a lot of work. And owners typically in our industry, they ain't like we can just sitting around doing nothing. There's no shortage of things to do. So carving off 10 hours a week to build, and that's the thing is you think, oh, I could buy this new CRM and plug it in and I'm up and running. It's like, no, dude, you got to build it. You got to put your workflow into it to make it work. And if you half-ass that, you're just going to be constantly trying to fix it.
Totally. Awesome. Well, Tim, what are your 3 book recommendations for the listeners?
So probably I've read a lot of books. The ones that really gave me the most aha moments was Traction, and the companion book. Can't think of the name of the companion book on it, but it's a fable about a company implementing Traction into their company. Traction helped me see business from a simpler standpoint. It's like, well, it's just sales, production, and accounting, and only 7 areas I got to work on, right? Traction, very, very impactful book in my career and where I learned. Situational leadership, I mentioned that one. Michael Gerber, I think is the name. No, Gerber's E-Myth. Who wrote situational leadership? It's SL2 though. Levels of leadership, levels of work, from Tom Foster.
Ken Blanchard.
Ken Blanchard, yeah. I think he's got a couple of them. He's got like the 20-Minute Manager, I think is his first book that he wrote. But situational leadership, probably got it sitting up in my bookcase there. And then hiring talent was a big one. Those three books were ahas. But the thing with learning and educating yourself, right, self-improvement, is that not everybody's ready to receive the information that someone else needs to receive. You have to go through this learning path and a series of wins and failures to see what's broken, to figure out what you have to learn. Right? So EOS, probably not a good book for someone that's just starting out, because they don't have an organization that's large enough to be able to really understand how that works. Situational leadership, same thing. If you don't have a team, it's not going to be, you can learn it. I got past just reading books for fun and learning. I'm only going to read a book if it's something I'm working on that I need to implement into my company. So I slowed down. I just got down to reading one book a year and learn, implement, measure, read it again, learn, implement, measure before I started another book. But those three books, Critical Conversations is another really good book too. If you manage people.
How do you know, I guess the idea of like read fewer books and study them, how do you know which ones to invest that type of energy into?
Great question, right? So learning path, the self-development path. My process is in business, you can learn a lot of different stuff, right? But before you just start picking up random books and learning, right, is where am I struggling in my business today? What is it that I need to learn to fix that? Right. So get clear on the things, and you could maybe make a list of hey, I need to learn how to build a sales system or a marketing system, or I got to learn how to do accounting better, or business planning, whatever it is. I got all these things I want to learn, but which one of those things do I think is going to have the biggest impact on my business today? Now I know what I want to learn. Now I got to go figure out where to learn it from. And information, back in 1991 when I started, finding information, just you got to go to the library and encyclopedia, or you had to go, meet somebody to be a mentor. That's how you learn. Today, information, there is no shortage of information, but there's no shortage of bad information. Right? So you have to learn who is the expert that if I learn from this person, whether it's a book, series of podcasts, or videos, YouTube, whatever, right? Is who's the expert that I want to learn from, learn it, implement, right? Implement it. Did it fix the problem? If yes, it moved the needle. Now it's like, okay, now what's the next thing I have to learn? And you just repeat that for your whole life. It never stops, right? Because you can do that. You apply that to your personal life too. It's not just, business, what you learn, the way you operate in business and function in business is you can apply all this business knowledge to your personal life, and it's game changing,
Yeah. No, I think I like that framework. Movie or show suggestion.
I'm a big musician. I play, my guitar is right there. So I play guitar, I sing, I play drums. I love music. It's my passion. Used to play in bands and stuff, but a movie called August Rush with Robin Williams from like 20 years ago. That's
August Rush.
For me, because I play music, it was very, very, I'd watch that movie. I'd go play my guitar for 2 hours after that and just inspired playing all kinds of cool stuff.
That's awesome.
I'm a big movie buff. I've watched all kinds of movies. So I love Contact with Jodie Foster. That's like old school, sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was so you use IMDb to look at ratings ever?
No, I don't think for movies.
Yeah, just like what's the score out of 10 that the movie got, I always have
Rotten
to,
Tomatoes, and the other one that
anytime that so I ask this question all the time because I like movies, but I don't have a ton of time to watch movies. But when I do, I don't want to just like do the scroll through Netflix to see some trashy movie that like it's just like I want to know that I'm watching a good movie and I'm going to spend 2 hours of my life, watching. It's got to be good. So I always ask people this recommendation, and this thing that a friend of mine came up with way back in college was uh, a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb. That's the threshold where if you find a 7.3 or higher movie, it's like it's not gonna be like a Grammy nominee or Oscar nominee, sorry, but it's gonna be a good, like, you're not gonna have wasted your 2 hours, right? You're gonna enjoy the movie because the majority of people that watched it enjoyed it. If it's below a 7.3, then I always tell people, okay, you have one mulligan in your life that you can tell Chris Keefer, hey, I know it's below 7.3. You should watch this. It's good. Because obviously the 8s and 9s that are out there, everybody's already seen those. So I like to try and find these like hidden gems that aren't wide stream or everyone's talking about them, but they're still really good. And you just recommended August Rush, which is a 7.4. So like this is like why I asked this question, is to find movie recommendations like this, because I'm like, it looks like it's rated PG. The kid, it looks like it's about a kid. So like good family movie. It looks like, and a good storyline. And anyway, so I'm like, yes, this is fantastic. And then
movies and books
Contact.
need. What's Contact? Tell me what that one.
Contact 7.5. So you had two like right in that zone of like they're better than a 7.3, and I have never heard of either of these. So I'm like, that's fantastic.
Maybe 10s, but they're kind of niche. So if you're not really into sci-fi, you're not going to dig Contact that much. Like my wife's like, it's got Matthew McConaughey in it, so she likes it. But if you're not into music that much, then August Rush isn't going to have as much impact on you than if you're a musician and you really love music. So they're a little bit niche, but that's good that they're ranked that high.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that
books, they need to evoke emotion. They make you laugh,
yeah, exactly,
make you cry, edge of your seat thriller, shit your pants scared. If they don't do that, then the movies just turn it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Anyways, that's super fun. Well, yeah. So, if someone wants to get in touch and they're like, man, this guy, I need him in my business, I want to coach with him. What's your recommended way that they get in touch with you?
Probably on Facebook. I'm friends with most people, a lot of the big influencers in our industry. So probably not going to be too hard to find. Tim Perryman. Either find me on Facebook or find me on LinkedIn. So I don't have a website yet for Field Ops Academy. I just shut my business down 6 months ago. So I've taken some time off. I'm writing, getting everything put together, so we have a really good usable program that we can outsource. So right now I'm looking for contractors that need help solving one problem in their business. Right? I don't care. It could be a people problem, could be a process problem. I don't want to get into specific customer problems, stuff like that. But you have a problem in your business that sits in that job delivery system from sales handoff to finish, and you need some help, whether it's getting clear on a project manager role, project coordinator role, one system, one process. I'm looking for people that are just looking for one thing: short engagement, to see how effective, how quickly this thing can be implemented into companies, right? So ideally, it's someone that's running a $2 to $5 million a year home service company, painting, kitchen, bathroom modeling. So I know a lot about most home services. So they're all the same. Just the widgets they perform is different, but all the works.
Yeah.
It's all the same in every company. It really is. It's a lot more simpler than people think it is. Everyone thinks the problems are unique to their business. They're not. They've all happened into other companies, and it's your problems are not unique to the home service business or any business really. So,
yeah. Well, Tim, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and hopefully the world got value out of this. And we'll be in touch and probably have you on at some point in the future, because I got more questions for you, but I want to respect your time. So Thank you so much.
Good. All right, Chris. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. My name is Chris Keefer, and my mission is to champion the relentless pursuit of purpose. And what that means to me is to be an example, a champion, someone that is in the trenches, working and showing and winning and trying and failing in how to pursue a deeper and more meaningful life with the people that I love, with my kids, with my friends, with our family, and also just be a champion and example of entrepreneurship and following my passion and doing what I believe I'm called to on this earth. And so if that inspires you in some way, please share this episode. If you want, like, subscribe, share, whatever, do all the stuff. It means the world to me to get this message and get these guests that I have out there. And if you're interested in any of the book recommendations or looking up other episodes, the movie list, you can visit my website, chriskeefer.com, for all the details on the show. And also check out the Boolean review software, as well as the Boolean automation consulting company that I own for home service businesses. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.